All right. Welcome everyone to today's session. It's a wonderful one, and we're really very, very glad that you're joining us. Thank you for being resilient all these weeks. And we know that this will be like the capstone for you, being able to put to practice what you've learned, whether you present a project to us or not. But we just believe that you will develop for yourself a whole person health that could guide you, like a roadmap for you. So, welcome. I'll quickly share my slide before we uh, get to talk with the main speaker. Thank you. All right, so today we'll be doing having a talk on how to design our final project. And I just want you to think through all the sessions you've attended, all the sessions you've listened to, and as we learn practical ways to do it, not textbook type of thing. These are experiential things. You'll be able to pick topics from there. And no other person to do that for us is Reverend Johan. I'll leave the introduction to Prof. Kenneth shortly. So we're really pleased that he's here with us, and I'm really sitting tight here to learn a lot from him. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. And he's been participating in other sessions, so he didn't just come for his session. Thank you, sir. All right. Just to emphasize, tighten your seatbelt. He's sharing over 100 years experience. Yeah, more than that, being with Mission 21. And as the director, I tell you, he has a lot to share with us. So let's stay tuned. And today we're making the schedule somewhat shorter than before. We only have him to present, and then we'll have interactive question and answer session. So questions on your project, questions regarding the challenges that you may be having or you think you may have, thinking about this design, either for yourself or for other communities, please put it in the chat box. And at the end, we'll encourage us to do course evaluation. We'll still keep that open for us because we want to learn how to improve upon the course for other participants in the future. So thank you. And just a segue, next Saturday will be our session. We'll really want every one of us to still attend, ask questions. We faculty will be here to address your questions as you plan your project or any questions you have regarding the course. Please feel free to come join us, share your questions, and we'll try to answer them as we wrap up the session. I was almost tempting to say, faculty, please, could you extend this course for another 2 weeks? But they said no. I just said, okay, let's stop here until next time. So please join us. And just like we started at the beginning of the course, we had a learning objective for every participant. And I just hope that along the way, all these six objectives are achieved for you, at least majority of them, that you develop and apply some context about whole person health experience. You design a whole person initiative to promote health equity, not just for others out there, but for you. How is your health? And looking at some of the index we have used, are you able to design something for yourself? Then you can design a project, which is what we are going to focus more on today. Have you demonstrated understanding of the whole person health and its concept? Have you integrated the total body, mind, spirit, emotions into the learning you've received so far? And have you thought of how using the current technology, to be able to help you in your journey regarding whole person health? either for yourself or in the marketplace or for your community. So we just hope that along the way you have learned something. And at the end, when we post the evaluation link, you will just share your thoughts with us. So before we give opportunity to introduce the speaker, we are getting names. Please write your names in full. We don't want to give certificates to iPhone or to somebody with his or her abbreviation. Please, you help us with that. When you are not speaking, please keep your phone in vibration or silence so that it does not interfere with our recording. You have problems, please put it in the chat room. When the presentation is over, we walk through all of them. Whether comments or questions, please put them there. We'll address them and help us complete the course evaluation. We appreciate your time and your presence for being here. And thanks for joining us today. So we'll come back to this at the end. But for now, I'll yield the floor to, how do I get out? I'll yield the floor to Professor Kenneth to introduce our speaker for the day. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Can you spotlight the keynote speaker? That's the person we want to be looking at. Thank you. There you go. There he is. Yes, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker today. Reverend Johan Kirsch is the director of Mission 21, as we just heard. Mission 21 is a global community of partner organizations and partner churches in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, and Latin America. And Johan has led Mission 21 as the director since 2019. And in his travels and work across Africa, Asia, Europe, and other parts of the world, Johan has sought to deepen the over 200 years plus legacy of Mission 21. And I would note, especially for the context of our course on whole person health, that he has been championing this commitment, the commitment of Mission 21 to addressing this, what we know as the social determinants of health, connecting spirituality and faith to the dignity of all persons, and aligning the work of the organization with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030. And in particular, the organization that he's leading is guided by the Sustainable Development Goals 16 plus, the goal of building peace and peaceful and just communities and inclusive societies all over the world. Previously, Johan was the head of the International Relations Department at Mission 21. And from 2004 to September 2014, he held various positions in this department as a team leader for Africa, program officer, Cameroon, Nigeria, South Sudan, and the thematic officer for HIV and theological education. And most recently, he has also been responsible for the area of religion and development. I remember very fondly the times that he has visited and presented at the Global Health Catalyst Summit on the importance of spirituality, religion, and development, and especially his approach to a decolonial approach to development and collaboration work. So he is now also leading Mission 21's work to partner with the Global Health Catalyst, especially around the signature program of the Comprehensive Cancer Center in the Cloud. So as you can see, we have someone with us who understands the nature of the work that we are doing, is excited about this work, is in the trenches, as they say, working with communities all over the world, partnering with people all over the world to think about development, project designs, implementation, what works, what doesn't work, what should our approach be. So without much further ado, I want to invite all of us to welcome Johan for his presentation. Johan, welcome and take it away.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kenneth. Thank you very much for your kind words. Yeah, very good morning, good afternoon, or evening, everyone, wherever you may be in this world. My name is Jochen Kirsch, Director, Mission 21, and it's really a great pleasure and an honor for me to participate in this course today. As I mentioned to you last week, my name Kirsch is actually German, which means cherry in English. So after a very intensive, rich, and nourishing course like a rich cake, I hope I can be something today like the cherry on your pie. And let me try to share my screen with you, if that's possible. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So the cherry on the pie in the sense that the aim of my presentation today is to give you some principal guidelines that will help you make the transition from theory to practice and to integrate the different aspects and concerns of whole person health that you have learned about over the past weeks into your own whole person health project or program. And I've already heard some very exciting news about that what's coming up. So to this end, I will draw on the resources from Mission 21, which has more than 200 years of experience in implementing and further developing whole person health in Africa, Asia, and in Latin America. Mission 21 is a worldwide fellowship of more than 70 churches and other faith-based organizations for more than 200 years in Africa, Asia, Europe, and Latin America. And together we are engaged in more than 100 programs worldwide. From a public health perspective, you could say that if you look at this puzzle, while we are working towards the Sustainable Development Goals that have been defined by the United Nations, concerning healthcare, we have standardized this semi-systematic integration of different types of healthcare, which you can see there at the center of the puzzle, into a comprehensive program approach addressing the various interconnected dimensions of physical health with ecological health, social health, mental health, and spiritual health. And if I may say so, already in our 200 years of experience, sustainable healthcare with a large impact and a high sense of patient ownership can only happen in this context of an integrated, comprehensive program approach that also the NIH so very rightly promotes and describes as whole person health. So in the next half hour or so, I would like to share with you some of our insights and experiences from the past 200 years in the development and the practice of whole person health that I hope you might find helpful to consider when you develop your own whole person health project or program now in the near future. And I would like to do this in 3 steps. I would like to start with sharing some practical experiences, then move on to a brief theoretical reflection, and finally try to conclude what this means for the design of a whole person health project. And I will start my sharing of practical experiences with the development of whole person health with an example from the area of humanitarian assistance. I don't know if we have any Nigerians among us today. So this is a picture from northern Nigeria, following the Boko Haram uprising in northern Nigeria since 2009 to 2010, and the activities of the terror group of the Islamic State. More than 2 million people from northern Nigeria had to flee their homes and villages to find shelter in other parts of the country, running away from unspeakable horrors and violence, losing their homes, their farms, and most often also losing DNM members of their family. And so from one day to the next, or sometimes even from 1 hour to the next, millions of people had nothing left from their old lives but the few clothes they had happened to wear on their bodies when they had started to run. And up to this day, Mission 21 is greatly involved in the support of those so-called IDPs, the internally displaced persons in Nigeria. When the crisis really hit in 2013, with a huge number of IDPs fleeing from the northeast of the country, one of the things we did, and I was intensively involved in that, was to help build refugee camps. And in the construction of those camps, we were initially mainly guided by the International Committee of the Red Cross and by other humanitarian assistance experts. And their focus was to advise us in the setting up of the distribution of food and non-food items that you see here on the picture, housing, medical facilities, water and sanitation, etc. But already in the very initial phase of starting to build those camps, the IDPs requested that alongside housing and other infrastructure, which was nice and okay for them, but they asked there should really also and immediately be at least a small mosque and a church. Our humanitarian assistance experts were somewhat surprised because that was entirely not part of their expected standard procedure. But we did it nevertheless because we wanted to follow the explicit desire of the IDPs. And for them, it was very clear that they had not only suffered grave physical harm from the violence of Boko Haram, but also unspeakable mental, social, and spiritual trauma. Like this man told me, Reverend, my physical wounds have been healed. As you can see, there are scars that will remain for the rest of my life, but at least I have survived physically. But what I don't know is, what have I survived for? What should I live for in the future, and why? Or this man with his small daughter, he told me, I have fresh clothes, I have a roof over my head, I have clean water, at times there is even electricity. But why should I eat? Why should I drink? Why should I sleep under a roof and even wake up again? My wife has been shot. From my 5 children, only my smallest daughter is left. We don't know where the others are, dead or alive, enslaved maybe in the hands of Boko Haram. I'm a Christian. My Muslim neighbors have betrayed me and my Christian family to the terrorists who kill, slay, enslave, burn, and steal in the name of Islam. I don't know anymore who to trust and who to turn to in my unspeakable pain that I lack words to express, but to God. Only He understands. Only God can help me carry my load. Only He can make me see the light of a new day. And only God can help me find something like a faint peace in my heart again, and new ways to reconnect with my life and with members of the Muslim faith from whose hands I have so greatly suffered. And just to be very clear, the very same also goes, of course, for thousands of Muslims who are still the majority of IDPs and who have equally suffered enormously beyond words from the terrorists in the name of their own religion, in the name of Islam. So who can they turn to in their grief and pain but to Allah? And so based on this explicit and immediate wish of the IDPs themselves in the different camps, the faith component in those camps has actually become a key element in their whole architecture. A key element not in the isolated sense of church on Sundays or Muslim prayer on Friday, but an integral part of a whole person health approach. So in basically all areas of work in the camp, we have considered religious factors, and we have actually involved different religious actors, either from within the camp or from neighboring Christian and Muslim communities, to strengthen the different areas of whole person health beside its physical components. For example, in counseling and trauma healing, in projects of interreligious reconciliation, in furthering the social life in the camp by interreligious thematic focus groups that work together on the farms, do some construction work in the camp together or whatever, social groups for women, for men, for the youth, individual and communal faith life, and then also very important, the interreligious governance in the camps with interreligious committees that help to guide things like distribution of food and non-food items, resolution of conflicts, maintenance, and other development work in the camp, which strengthens ownership of the IDPs and a sense of mutual trust again and social cohesion in the camp communities. And so the camps further developed with different projects on different areas of work. There was a health clinic, there was infrastructure for housing, water, and sanitation. There were small farms around the camp where people could grow healthy food for their own nutrition. And there was also something like a market where they could sell some small small stuff from their farms. They could prepare food and do some small income generation business. There were thematic groups on trauma healing, etc., social groups for leisure and for strengthening social cohesion within the camp. So in the process of creating all these different activities and areas of work, we made sure that all these different projects in the camp would not be running beside each other, but they would actually be an integral part of a holistic, comprehensive program where all the different parts, the different efforts create synergies with one another and work towards the same goal, the strengthening of the resilience and of the whole person health of each individual and of the community as a whole, in its physical, its social, its mental, and its spiritual relationships. After this example of the humanitarian assistance, I would like to move on to an example from the context of regular development cooperation, and more specifically, a topic that has already been covered in this course in the session at the end of February, phytomedicine. And from my example, I stay in the context of northern Nigeria. In northern Nigeria, access to regular health facilities is rather poor. Especially in rural areas, the churches are often the only institutions that offer reliable facilities for healthcare delivery, not only for Christians, but for the whole population. But even then, people might have to travel far. Therefore, it's important to strengthen their health resilience and their own local capacities for primary health care in their homes and villages by different means. One important element in this approach would be the use of actually readily available phytomedicine from natural resources in their immediate environment. But in addition to the safeguarding of the pharmaceutical compatibility and the harmonization with other medical standards, as it was already very rightly pointed out in this course by Dr. Turndwa and Dr. Sayeda in their session on phytomedicine, from my experience, you also, in addition to those aspects, you also have to look at the compatibility of phytomedicine with other aspects of the whole person, the one whole person you want to apply it to. And this is why I bring up the example here. In the context of northern Nigeria, people are highly religious. Usually they are either Muslim or Christian, and traditional religion doesn't play a very big role here anymore. However, people still know very well that in their tradition, the healing powers of plants were always believed to be connected to certain spirits and traditional deities that inhabit those plants and that give them their specific healing power. And to make use of these powers would to them be like sort of sliding back into their old traditional belief systems. So we realize that there's actually very high resistance among many Christians and Muslims in northern Nigeria against the use of phytomedicine, no matter how helpful it would be for them, as they consider it incompatible with their own religious identity. And that's again where you see the role of religion in the delivery of whole person health coming in. In the case of our partners in northern Nigeria, we have helped to introduce the topic of phytomedicine in the theological education of both Christian pastors and lay people in order to engage them in a theological dialogue about it. And we have also included phytomedicine in our program on interreligious dialogue. What does our respective faiths say about the use of phytomedicine? What are the opportunities and what are the obstacles? So actually dialogue started among Christians and Muslims in the course of our theological education. And at the end of the day, they decided together that the rediscovery of phytomedicine would indeed be an important asset to the lives of their families and communities. But in order to do that, they had to first theologically reframe phytomedicine among themselves and with their people. So they actually resolved that if you understand the plants not as inhabited by a certain deity or other spiritual powers, but as the creation of God, who is eventually the healer, you gain new access to traditional knowledge on the medical use of plants and new ways of incorporating it into the healthcare strategy of both Christian and Muslim communities and families. So through this, for some of you may be surprising combination of theological education with courses on the use of phytomedicine, new sustainable, locally available and affordable opportunities have come up to enhance and to complement capacities in the access to and in the delivery of primary health care and other areas of medical work in the region. And last but not least, after we have looked at the role of religious factors in the delivery of whole person health, I would also like to highlight an example on the role of cultural factors in development cooperation. And for simplicity's sake, I will remain in the context of northern Nigeria. Traditionally, people in West Africa typically cook on an arrangement of 3 stones. Some of you might know that. And the disadvantage of this traditional setup, however, is that one, it's not very energy efficient, and it uses a lot of firewood. And in the context of, for example, northern Nigeria, with the rapid advance of desertification, trees play an important role in the stability and in the water management of the soil. So if possible, trees should rather be planted than to be easily cut down for firewood. A second disadvantage is, especially in closed or semi-open kitchen spaces, this 3-stone arrangement causes a lot of smoke. You can see it on the picture, which is quite hazardous for the eyes and for the respiratory system of the women, who are usually the ones to prepare the meals. And thirdly, it's also dangerous for animals or children who can easily fall into the open fire. Therefore, we had concluded with our partners that it would be an important asset to our efforts, both in the area of preventive healthcare, but also as a complementary measure to our reforestation projects in the Rural Development Program, that we should introduce trainings on the production and the use of energy-efficient stoves. So at the end of the day, one of our colleagues, a very well-meaning and committed German staff, he volunteered to develop a prototype how such an energy-efficient stove could be produced with local material, and he tested it with our Nigerian colleagues on the ground. So here you see the result in 2 versions. And I would really like to invite you, if you want at least, to unmute yourself and just briefly and tell me if you have any thoughts on this. What's the difference between those 2 versions? And to make it a bit more interesting, I'll tell you already that one of those versions worked and the other one did not. And I would want to find out from you what you think, which one works and which one doesn't, and why. Any ideas from the group? No? Don't be shy.
Yes, I have an idea,
Okay, Doctor,
Gloria.
please.
I'm just so excited because you walked where I lived and work, and Kano, Kaduna, Zaria, it's a place I had lived.
Yes.
So I really appreciate this. The innovation is great. I think the one with the woman outside is the one people prefer, because whatever she's cooking, you know, it doesn't choke her, it doesn't choke the family, it's in the environment. I don't know, the one in their room, you know, though now better shaped, it affects the smoke can still affect the household, cause problems, and
okay.
both of their smiles are okay, so it depends on.
Yes, so you would prefer the one on the left because that's outside, right?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
There's a comment in the chat from
Okay, sorry, yeah.
from Lydia. Say, indoors, the one indoors sustained their culture of a cozy setting.
Okay. All right. So that's one difference.
She says, though the outside is healthy. I should let Lydia talk. Why, Mary?
Yeah, I just think, good morning, that I remember being in my grandmother's kitchen, and there's something special about being in that cozy space. A lot of storytelling happened. And so it's different to be outside, even though it's healthier and ventilated. I just think of the experience of the space being in that kitchen. So I wonder if the people would have chosen to remain indoors.
Okay.
And be in that cozy space.
Thank you so much, Lydia. That's very interesting. Any other thoughts? One last voice. No?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
This is Oscar. Growing up in the village, both are good, but in the village, most people prefer the one inside the house, because in the village, we have a lot of mosquitoes in the evening, so it's very challenging to sit outside to cook in the night. That is already a challenge, because when mosquitoes start biting you, that's a hazard already. So most people prefer the one inside the house.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Oscar. I'm very happy and grateful for your feedbacks.
May I say something?
Yeah, please. Sorry, yeah.
Okay, I'm Moji. I'm thinking that is it possible to have a combination of both, that you have the ventilation that lets the smoke go outside, and then you still have the privacy inside? Because I do agree that people want to have the privacy and being able to do things indoors. But then you could also just have on that corner, just have a set of blocks going up that goes out of the house, and then you can have the ventilation as well.
I love this conversation. Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you very much. Interestingly, all of you have referred to outside and indoor, and now you're trying, the last one, you tried to combine the two, the health and the fresh air and the coziness of the inside. Interestingly, and now I'll share with you the response we got from from your sisters, Dr. Gloria, in northern Nigeria. So the result there was that the woman on the left, after she was done smiling, she actually politely explained to our German colleague that she doesn't like to stand when she's cooking. She told him that, you know, sir, when I cook, I need to sit. I need to be able to look inside my pots, while I'm also able to do other things on the ground, like peeling of plantain, cocoyam, preparing vegetables, and so on. So that is something that you didn't refer to, but that was very important for the women. The German colleague, you know, he is used to it. His German kitchen, so there you stand, probably like in most US American kitchens also, you stand while you cook. But those women, they want to sit. There's lots of things on the ground around them, and they cut fish and do this and that. And meanwhile, they look inside the pots. There's no way that the lady on the left can do that, no matter how beautiful the German engineer made the oven. And so, with expertise of the first prototype, the women's groups developed their own culturally adapted energy efficient stove, low enough to sit next to and to look inside the pots, but like the last speaker said, with a smoke vent for indoor use. So that was their resolution, and you see the women looking very critical what those people are doing. And afterwards, they were extremely happy, and they started selling their model to other women groups in the region. So they also made a lot of money, and with that money, they could start building their next ovens themselves. So anyway, in the course of the last, 20 minutes or so, I have briefly shared with you 3 examples of very different projects and programs on whole person health. One in the context of humanitarian assistance, one in the context of primary health care, and one in the context of a rural development program. So my next step in our joint reflection process would be the question, what are actually the common features and learnings from these 3 examples from very different contexts for the design of projects or programs on whole person health? I don't know if there are any general ideas already from your end. Otherwise, I'll start with my own 2 major insights. I have to prioritize, of course, there's more. But let me start with that one. The first one that I think is important is if you look at the example of the refugee camp in Nigeria, you see that especially the secular actors in development cooperation, like those experts or so-called experts from the International Red Cross, they tend to look at human needs worldwide in a way that also finds expression in other fields of work, like, for example, in psychotherapy, in Maslow's pyramid of needs that you see here you see me on the left. So first of all, whatever you do, you have to certainly make sure you meet the basic needs, the need for food, for water, a roof over your head. You make sure everybody is safe, give them access to healthcare, then let them go to school, learn a trade, be able to make a living, etc., etc. And once you have passed through all those stages and everybody is fed and safe and they have sufficient income, etc., it's only then you can eventually enjoy the luxury to sit down and attend to a very personal, individual things like religion, or in the words of Maslow, the strive for self-actualization. But already from this very clear distinction between the general basic needs at the bottom of the pyramid that they think go for everyone alike, and individuals strive for self-actualization at the top of the pyramid, it's already very obvious that this understanding of human needs is a typical secular model from an individualistic Western society like Europe or the US, where also Maslow came from. Well, I'm not even sure if this pyramid of needs is really true for people from the so-called global north. At least it's certainly not true for me, but I'm pretty sure that it's by no means true for most people in the rest of the world, in Africa, in Latin America, and Asia, in the so-called global south. In those societies, religion does not come after or separate from any other human need, but it's considered an integral and an inseparable part of our human existence itself. And it therefore permeates and kind of colors all our other needs. I find this understanding very strikingly expressed in one of the most prominent traditional Adinkra symbols of the Akan people in Ghana, the Jinyame, which means God is everywhere. And you see it already in the symbol. The lines of the middle of the symbol, you see the different aspects of your life represented, and around it, how everything is flowed and embraced and filled with God. Because in the societies of the so-called global south, religion is not at all at the top of whatever kind of angular pyramid, but it's part of the very texture of human life and society and existence. It coins all concepts and understanding of all aspects of your life, like, for example, the understanding of health and illness. What is health? What is considered to be illness? And where do they come from? Religion and culture coin questions around wealth and poverty. What do you consider wealthy or poor? In terms of money, family, children, in relationships, and how do I get there? Religion coins ways which design our relationships, how we manage our conflicts. It determines the power structures, the social and the family orders. It determines the way in which I look at nature, as we have seen in the example of the phytomedicine, etc. So everything is in one way or the other coined and filled by culture and religion. And so to work as a professional in the promotion of whole person health means that we have to be aware of the fact that whatever our own religious understanding is or may not be, we have to be aware of the fact and respect the fact that religion does play a crucial role in the lives and in the societies of our so-called beneficiaries. And therefore, religion and culture as a whole has a great influence on our development efforts in general and on our healthcare systems in particular. Including cultural or religious factors in healthcare delivery, however, does therefore not mean, not even with the best of intentions, to use religion as something like a marketing instrument to sell your intended medical invention that you have developed before. That might be very well meant, but it would be the totally wrong direction. As something like a secondary argument from what would be the top of the Western pyramid of needs to support and to sell your own primary physical and medical arguments from the lower parts of the pyramid, like physical health, food, or water. So instead, including the role of religion in the delivery of whole person health does, as a rule, not start with you. It does not start with your own good intentions, with your own argument, and then trying to find a well-meaning pastor or an imam to sell it to someone, or to looking up suitable passages from the Quran or from the Bible that might fit your purpose. Instead, as we have seen in the example of the use of phytomedicine in northern Nigeria, including the role of religion in the delivery of whole person health has not to end, but to start with the perspective of the patient. and it has to center all around him or her, his or her needs, his or her faith perspective, his or her worries and possible resistance about something. Including the role of religion in the delivery of whole person health means going deeper and understanding the problem from the root cause through the eyes of the patient. So, as you have seen in my different examples, we may conclude that including cultural or religious factors in healthcare delivery means to look at the implications in all areas and in all aspects of human life at the same time, not in steps from the physical to the spiritual, like in the Maslow's pyramid, but like in the symbol of the Yin Yang. And secondly, to look at them not from your own point of view, but from the perspective of the patients, of those that you aim to serve. And lastly, culture and religion play a role not at the end, but right from the beginning, because they are an integral part of the whole person and not a marketing strategy at the end of your process. Interestingly, I found out that there are not many tools available that can help you do this kind of reflection process. So how to responsibly include religious and cultural factors in the design of projects or programs in an easy and systematic way. So eventually I developed one myself some 15 years ago, which is now being widely used, especially by Swiss faith-based organizations. The model or the tool actually follows the traditional 3-step module of a conflict-sensitive program management while looking at the 4 different levels of impact. For those who are interested, I will send the document to the organizers of the course. So that was my one takeaway from the practical examples, the role of culture and religion in whole person health. And my lesson number 2, many people use the word project or program as synonyms, but yet there are important differences between them, which are also highly relevant to any design of a project or program on whole person health. In the context of development cooperation, a project is typically a small bundle of different measures with limited scope, time frame, and resources. For example, a pilot project like we've seen here on the development of locally made energy efficient stoves. If, however, you are aiming to achieve sustainable development, you would typically incorporate different projects into the framework of what we would call a comprehensive program, like the projects for the introduction of energy efficient stoves or the project with courses of phytomedicine that I talked to you before would actually typically both be part of an integral community-based rural development program which combines those efforts, for example, with a project on reforestation, a project on sustainable ecological agriculture, courses on nutrition, waste management, and the installment of different rural health posts. In all those different projects, if all those projects are designed in a way that they complement each other and create synergies towards one comprehensive goal, then we would speak of a program. And I think that this consideration and this distinction between a project and a program is equally key if you aim towards a comprehensive goal like the promotion of whole person health. Just to pick some of the themes of our course, or if I refer to the 4 areas, the 4 dimensions that Dr. Will Noir presented last week on the future of whole person health, care, advocacy, research, education, you could say that if we develop a whole person health project, we have to make sure that we don't stay in our silo, but that we find ways to meaningfully connect our own project area with the other 3 areas, to incorporate it into a broader, comprehensive program approach. That might mean that you might need more time to think about your project. Maybe you will also lose some degree of independence, as you will have to find compromises when you coordinate your own efforts with those of others. But I'm really telling you that it's worth to make those sacrifices, because the reward of efforts will be a much higher quality, level of quality, of impact and sustainability of your own project. A West African saying says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So in summary, looking back on my practical examples and my theoretical reflections, I'm asking, what are the key elements to be considered in the design of projects for the promotion of whole person health? One would, of course, be the locally led development. Make sure that from the start, your project, including its design, is not driven by you, like these energy efficient stoves here, but by the project participants and by the needs and by the respective values of your intended beneficiaries. If you want to achieve real and sustainable impact, they should really be the ones who drive and who own the project. Number two, as we have seen from the example for the promotion of phytomedicine, even if you have a great and important idea like the rediscovery of phytomedicine, it's important that already from the beginning design stage, we follow a conflict-sensitive program approach, including a thorough reflection on the role of cultural and religious factors and religious actors in all stages of project planning and implementation. If you want, my practical guide can help you with that. And number three, the whole person health approach requires that you make sure from the start to either design your work in the framework of an already existing, in the framework of an integrated comprehensive program approach, or to include your project into a suitable already existing comprehensive program. Because eventually only a program approach will allow you to effectively and systematically incorporate the different aspects of whole person health in a synergetic and sustainable way. So looking at these 3 points, it seems to me obvious that today's session on how to design a whole person health project is far from just being a technical issue, but that truly speaking, the whole person health approach, in fact, requires and brings about nothing less but a whole paradigm shift in our global health work. From a singular project approach to a comprehensive integrated program approach. From an isolated view on certain health issues to a holistic view on human health and human life in all its aspects, its interconnections, and its relationships. And thirdly, to shift from an object view, how can I as a health professional improve and develop something or someone, shift from that object view to a perspective of cooperation on eye level, where we place patients in all their particular wholeness with their specific physical, social, cultural, mental, spiritual formation in the center and at the very beginning of a healing process. And that is why I really wholeheartedly embrace this paradigm shift in global health, which has been initiated by the NIH, and I really want to sincerely encourage you to do likewise. Because based on the more than 200 years of experience of Mission 21 in the area of whole person health, I'm absolutely convinced that wherever we dare to follow this whole person health approach of the NIH, we will be rewarded with a high degree of local ownership and with investments into projects and programs with a great and sustainable impact. Thank you very much for your attention.
Wow, that was wonderful.
Thank you so much, Johan. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. I think we do have time for some interaction from the audience. Dr. Saida, are you coordinating?
Yes, definitely. I do see some comments from different people, like Gloria and then Lydia indoors. So Gloria is success, wonderful work with Mission 21, and Lydia indoors sustained their culture and cozy settings. Yeah, I believe this is about the cooking pictures. Um, and some comments, same thing about the one we discussed before, the one in the room. And then out, Lydia also mentioned the outside is healthier, and also Mozilla, the one outside has a good ventilation. And see, so
I think Oscar has a question.
okay.
I see a hand there.
No, I don't have a question. I just have, excuse me, I just have a remark. When you were talking about the various the cooking systems and that the ladies in Kano actually preferred the one that they are sitting down. It just came to my mind that women like to multitask. So standing up, it's going to be a little bit challenging for you to multitask. So sitting down it gives them that opportunity to be able to do one or two things while the pot is cooking. Because if they are standing, excuse me, it's going to be a little bit difficult for them to do what they really want to do. Like in my culture, when my mom is cooking, if the pot is on fire, she's either already preparing what she has to do for the soup, sitting down. But with the other one standing, it's going to be really challenging. So I really appreciate the feedback that the women gave, because they actually gave you the practical example of what they are supposed to be doing when they're cooking food. Thank you very much.
Yeah, efficient time management. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Oscar. I think I shared that example with you, and I was also curious on your own ideas, and I'm grateful for your feedback, because it shows how important it is to start any kind of project with the persons you actually want to benefit from it. Not with your own intention, with your own background. It is even unconsciously. But to ask them, see, this is what we would like to do. What do you think about it? How would you go about doing it? And then the women, they themselves said, okay, it's a good idea, but let's do it this way so that I can still do my plantain at the same time and take care of my child or whatever. And that creates ownership. And to me, that's the key element of whole person health. Thank you.
So there is a comment from, well, can you comment on the cultural and mental health aspects of whole person's health?
Yeah, from Will. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Thank you, Will, for the question. Sorry, the time was short, so I had to be a bit short about things. But if I can come back, for example, to the example of the from the beginning of the refugee camp in northern Nigeria, you could see that it needs that kind of, that I try to talk about later, that comprehensive program approach where cultural and mental health, they go alongside physical health, care of protection from the rain, and having healthy food, but also being together in faith-based groups, for example, to work on their trauma that they had suffered from, to find ways. I mean, it's a very big word, but to reconcile with one another after the terrible things that have happened. And I think that's a key element of whole person health, in my view, that you look at persons in their different aspects, their needs. And as I tried to point out, I feel that especially in the context of the so-called Global South, religion and religious leaders play a very important role in this context. That's why I gave that example of the camp in northern Nigeria. I hope it's clear.
Yeah, also
Oh, and navigating different religions. Yeah. So we had interreligious programs like the use of phytomedicine. Muslims and Christians thought together, what does it mean for our faith? Is there a way that we can open up avenues to use phytomedicine without being regarded as backsliders, but to do it in our own context of our Muslim faith or our Christian faith? So whenever religions, as they coin the society so much, when religious leaders and they are managing to come together and work towards the same goal, then as the society comes together, also health comes together. You can't have a healthy individual in an unhealthy society. Both belong together.
yeah, some are misconceptions also bring the society, make the difference. But when you think through it and you may combine the society together. Yeah.
Then I see
Is
hands from
there
Oscar and
any?
from Dr. Gloria again.
Thank you so much for your experience. I was still typing a question when you were talking. The comment I want to add is that I really appreciate the way we prioritize the needs of the community. Like when they ask, please build a mosque as well as a church. I think sometimes we write a concept, we write proposal, putting everything there without um, keeping things for contingency. Like when I was doing reproductive health research in the Gambia, we went for the same thing, examined women, treated them, and we had to take authority from the leaders, not just from the chief, the women's group, the men's group, and the youth group. Everybody in the community bought into it. But before we started, we didn't put this in our costs. The women said, we walk several miles to go fetch water. Give us a well. That was not in our grant, but we gave them a well. When we built 2-3 wells in their community so that they don't need to walk several kilometers for water, not just reproductive health came to that community. We brought trachoma, these eyes and flies things, malaria program, waste management. So when we identify and give priority to the needs of the community, they just release themselves for us because till trust is built and relationship is built. So thank you. My question is, it does appear you've been implementing whole person health all the while, and we really appreciate this added value to us. And the way you presented it looked as if it is so smooth sailing. I would just want to ask, what were the challenges you experienced at all levels, either at the community level or within your team or working with the government, as you implemented these programs the way you saw it fit? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Gloria. I think that the first obstacle that comes to my mind is, if I may say so a bit boldly, the first obstacle was our good intentions. Because sometimes the good intentions, they come in the way of taking people seriously. So to give, as with the example of those energy efficient stoves, to really give priority to the perspective and of the others, that is key. That is a big obstacle that we found sometimes. And then yeah, maybe also when I try to explain those things to people in a secular world, like in the US or in Europe, there's a different understanding of religion than there is in the so-called global South. And I would like to, if I may, Dr. Gloria, if I connect my answer now to a question that I see in the chat from Dr. Avery. How can we integrate faith and spiritual care into research that builds trust but maintains scientific standards? To me, if you include looking at the role of religion and culture into development cooperation, that doesn't mean that you have to be a Christian or Muslim or you water down standards, but it means that first of all you take people in their context seriously. Because in northern Nigeria you don't find people that are atheists usually, but 99.9% of the people are either Christian or Muslim, and faith plays a major role in their lives. So if you do research about anything, how you want to treat a certain type of cancer or whatever in that context, you have to, especially in the context of whole person health, you have to take, as a very scientific matter of fact, you have to take the role of religious actors and religious factors into consideration. If you don't, you become unprofessional. And that is not a contradiction with maintaining scientific standards, but on the contrary, it enables you to work scientifically, properly, taking all the determining factors into account. And that is something I found a challenge, Dr. Gloria, sometimes when I'm in dialogue with agencies of the so-called global north, that they don't fully understand those implications, or they say, oh, it's because you're a reverend or you're a Christian or whatever that you want to put those things inside. No, it's not about me. It's about the people I want to serve. And because it's important to them and it's essential to them, it has to be essential for me. And I have to take it into a professional, conflict-sensitive program planning. If I don't, I'm working unprofessionally, unsustainably, and I'm just wasting money.
Yeah, that was excellent. And I was just wondering, during in your process of integration, did you face any unwanted or any kind of a negative experience which may prevent to move further, or how did you overcome those effects?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understood the question well. Can you pose it?
Did you during your work process, did you encounter any kind of negative force, or how did you overcome those negative force or negative connotation from religious points of view?
Yeah, of course. If I understood the question correctly, yes, of course. So, for example, if I work in a Muslim context as a Christian, for example, I work in a Muslim context like in Indonesia or so, where 90% are Muslim, then with some people you have to also create trust. Or also if I work in Dr. Gloria's context in northern Nigeria, as a Christian, I work with Muslims, you have to also create a level of trust first, because there might be suspicion, or you want to convert them or something like that. So you have to make sure that they understand that your aim is not to spread a type of faith or whatever, but is to work towards the common good, to work towards their own whole person health as an individual, as a community, as a society. And so that is an obstacle that we keep facing. And what helps is that Mission 21 hasn't come today, but is there already since 200 years. So in northern Nigeria specifically, we're there like 80 years from now, since already. So we're already known since generations. There's already a great level of trust, of acceptance. We have access. Even to the most remote areas, we have access. People know us, they trust us, and they know we don't come to convert anybody, but to help them and work towards whole person health.
Thank you.
All right. So I just, Dr. Kasha, I just wanted to ask something. When you started your presentation, you mentioned two persons who were affected by the Boko Haram and the yes. So those people, if you look at the remarks that they made, that already show that they have some mental challenges in understanding why they are supposed to be living, which is something that when you talk to them, you give them a different perspective of why they are supposed to be living. Because left to them alone, like the man with the little girl, he says, "Why should I live?
Yes.
Where's my wife? Where are my other children?" So that was really an important thing for the work that you people are doing in northern Nigeria, because left to that man himself, he will either kill himself and kill that child because of the mental trauma that he sustained during the Boko Haram crisis. So I think religion and whole person health is a very key when it comes to these conflict areas, because they try to give meaning for somebody to live despite the challenges that you have faced.
Exactly. Yeah. I took one of those Red Cross experts who was so surprised that people are not grateful enough that they have a roof over their head and those things. I said, no, that's not the point. They are grateful, but they don't know why they need the roof. And so I took him to an evening with the parents of the Chibok girls at the time. Those girls that had been abducted by Boko Haram. And he attended with me that evening of the Chibok girl parents. And at the end, and they started to talk about their experiences, about the trauma, about losing their children, their daughters. And he sat beside me and he was crying like a child. And I'm not lying, I was also crying. It was touching. And at some point, then they asked him, so doctor from the Red Cross, please come and say, give us a word of encouragement. And there was nothing he could do. He was just crying. And then they said, okay, then so Reverend Kirsch, please, maybe you have a word for us. Then I stood up and I started to pray. And that was the language that reached them, because that is what I tried in those examples to convey, that the faith component is such an important part of whole person health, especially in this context. And sometimes you can't deal with those huge challenges, like you can also say cancer or anything like that, that really sweeps away the whole basis that your life was standing on. So what is left for you? You could say ask the same questions. Okay, I have a roof over my head, but I have cancer. So what is left for me now? Why do I even need that roof? Why should I continue to eat? Why should I continue to breathe? Why do I need this maze or whatever in front of my doorstep? No, there's something lacking. And so to complement the whole person, you have to take the spiritual world, the faith perspective of those persons that you deal with very closely into account, and not my own because I'm a Christian or I'm Muslim or whatever, but theirs, those persons that you try to serve. I'm sorry, Gloria, I was taken away.
Thank you. No, that is really great. That is really great. And we're looking at our time. So
I had my hand up to ask.
you have one hand up, please. Yes, we have a hand up, and then we'll,
yes. Thank you so much for your lecture. I just have a couple of comments. The first one was you answered it. I was talking about those who are not Christians or Muslims, that and you had said earlier on that they are included in the counseling, the whole person treatment as well, so that just from them being around those who are spiritually inclined, they could also get the succor and the strength from them as well. So that's number one. So they shouldn't be just Christian, Muslim, or Jews, or whatever. But anybody, those who don't even have any religion, are included in that list. And then the second thing is that this is thinking outside the box. I think that the pyramid that we have now should be modified and divided into two. And on one side is religion and culture, running all the way through to the top. And then on the other side are the health and education and all the other security, other things. If we're going to make this a global thing that anybody looking at it will know the importance of religion and culture, it might be something that we can look at in the long term, if it won't cause too much of a stir. That's my opinion.
Yeah, thank you, Madam. I'm in full agreement with everything you've said, and just to avoid any kind of misunderstanding, I use Christianity and Islam because those are really the religions of the people in that example of the camp in northern Nigeria. In another area, it could be something else. It's what religion is there is not relevant. What is there is that it refers to the context of the people that you try to serve. And if everybody were an atheist, there is no use of having a mosque or a church. So that's not my own religion that matters, but we have to determine our whole person health project according to the needs, to the context of the patients we want to serve. That's what I keep coming back to. But if everybody is a Muslim or a Christian, there's also no use to have something like atheist, because they will not understand you, Madam. So, or they might even misunderstand you. So that's what I try to get across. I hope I have been understood.
Yeah, thank you so much. I believe we can end our question and answer part right now, and I'm giving the floor to maybe Kenneth or Gloria.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Saida. And let's again all join our hands together to appreciate Reverend Kirsch for this wonderful presentation. Thank you so much, sir. That was really amazing. So just looking forward for those who are doing work on projects, we will email you. We'll be in communication with you in the coming week as you begin to put together your work or continue to develop it. And you might get a link to provide course evaluations. If you get that link, please take some time to complete it, and we need that feedback as we think about what we want to do going forward. And so stay connected with the Global Health Catalyst. Looking forward to programs that are coming up in the next months, and we hope that we will stay connected. And finally, next week we're rounding off. So if you want to come back and just have a time just to sit and talk about the course and the experience or questions, bring your tea, sit, and let's create a kind of whole person health community in this space and round off our time together. So thank you so much. We know that there are other meetings that need to be happening soon, so we will bring our time today to a close. And with that, wishing everybody a wonderful weekend, and looking forward to seeing you all next week. Spread the word about whole person health and invite others to join.
Yeah. Thanks for that.